Good morning and welcome to NAHREP Fresno. My name is Gloria Chavez and I am your 2020 president. Today we have an inspiring event with your mindset and your journey. It will be with Gabe Mendez, Alex Munoz from NAHREP La Jolla, and they will be having a candid conversation with our very own Myrna Garcia, our vice president. And without further ado, here's Myrna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Myrna. I am your NAHREP Fresno VP, and I would like to introduce you to two extraordinary men, Alex Munoz and Gabe Mendez. Alex Munoz served in the Army, which led him into missions into Germany, Kosovo, Bosnia, Hungary, and Iraq, which reinforced the innate character and sense of making an impact to all who cross his path. Alex is a broker of the Maven Mortgage team and La Jolla's 2019 past NAHREP president. Back in March, when everyone was sheltering in place due to COVID-19 and the world spiraled into chaos, Alex chose to take a journey across the US in 28 days. He will openly share his story with us and give us a glimpse into his mindset. Now, Gabe Mendez started his journey back in 2008 in real estate when he experienced the foreclosure of their home, whose single mother worked hard to buy their first home and only to find out they would be another statistic of the 2008 real estate crash. Gabe took this experience to propel him into becoming the best realtor back in 2013. Gabe will share his story with us, from being raised by a single mom to having his car repossessed at a listing appointment, to gracing the cover of the prominent San Diego magazine and receiving the award from Century 21, the Centurion. Now find out how he used this pain and experience to succeed. I'm going to play a video for you, one from Alex and one from Gabe, and then we'll bring the boys on.
Making my way across the US to see, document what people are going through. I'm headed east, and I'm going to make it to the East Coast and go from there. Made it to the next part of my journey. Here in DC at the Lincoln Memorial. I have one of these. I just couldn't pass up the opportunity. Every city I've been to has had a similar pattern. It's been sad. It's been painful. Seeing all the energy and all the life sucked out of the US and the world all together. So after 24 days of being on the road, traveling around the country, finally made it back to my home state of California. I know a couple things for certain. There's still good people out there. I'm ready to come home.
Now we're going to do a video from Gabe. So you just saw a video from Alex and Gabe, and now we're going to bring these extraordinary men on screen with us.
What's up, Myrna?
Hi.
Good morning. Alex, what's up, man? Good morning.
Man, that video was just fire. I love it.
Both, man. Both of them. It's beautiful to see the journey that you went through. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, we're going to dive right in. Gabe, we're going to start off with you. So, Gabe, I want to go ahead and ask you a few questions. And Alex, if you have some questions as well, you just please jump in. But we want to dive in. I want people to understand, when you see these two young, fine men, polished and successful as they are, that it hasn't always been like that. So we're going to dive right deep into conversation and be candid and open, transparent with all of you, because I want you all to see that we can all succeed when we set our mindsets to it. All right. So first question, Gabe, what was the experience that impacted you the most in your life?
Well, that is the experience that I went through back in 2008. My mother is first generation from Mexico, and we grew up like everyone else, and she tried her best to give us the best life possible. She moved us over to a nice part of town in San Diego. It's called Bonita. And she's a single mom. My sister and I taking care of us both full time. She worked 2 to 3 jobs. So we lived like in a single bedroom apartment for a long while. And then eventually we upgraded to a 2-bedroom. So I had my own room for a while. That was pretty cool. Still shared the restroom, which was, I don't know how I did that back then, but it was a good experience. But the challenging part about that whole story was we grew up in a really nice part of town. So Bonita, everyone had really nice cars. And after school, I'd go to my friends' houses and they'd have PlayStations and the new plasma TVs that just came out back then. And it was a humbling experience. And so my mom would see me at a young age talk about all that. And it was hard for me to invite anyone over because we were crammed into 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom for 3 of us. And we had nothing to do, no entertainment. So it was just kind of like a humbling experience. And she saw that. So finally, when I was of age, older, she decided to go out on a whim, try to help us out. And she purchased our home for us, the family. And we got a really beautiful home in Eastlake. It's a really nice part of town. And she told us, she said, hey, we bought a home and I want you guys to know I did this for you. And so now you guys can invite all your friends and all of your family friends over. You guys can play games and you guys can go run down the backyard. And that's what I did. I started inviting all my boys over. We would play Halo and video games, and we'd stay up till like 2, 3 in the morning on weekends. And it was a blast. But that all quickly came to a halt because in 2008, well, we bought the house in 2005, and in 2007, 2008, that's when things started going really bad. That's when I started noticing notices on the door, stakes being placed in our front yard, sheriffs knocking on our front door. And I'd ask her, I'm like, Mom, what's going on? And she just said, hey, ignore it. Don't answer the door. I remember driving by the house and there were stakes out there, and she said, hey, hurry up, run out and take it off the front porch. So I had to do that. And unfortunately, back then, I didn't really click the two together. I didn't really realize what was happening during that time. And I wish I would have paid more attention because I would have helped her more. But what I later in life realized was that she was a victim of predatory lending. And we ended up losing the house, and we ended up having to walk out of the neighborhood. And I remember moving back into my uncle's house in the garage where he had a couch. And I slept on the couch for, like 9 months. And a lot of my best friends can tell you, this is the reality of it. They'd come over, we'd hang out in the garage. My mother and my sister had a shared bedroom. Very humbling. Then after that, about I think a year and a half afterwards, we moved in with my grandmother. I slept in a spare room that she had in the back on a futon. And my mom and sister still shared, my sister was pretty old at that time, but they still had to share a bedroom because there were nowhere else for us to stay. So it took we had years of climbing ourselves out of it.
How many siblings do you have, Gabe?
It's just me and my sister, man.
And you're the oldest one?
I'm the oldest one.
When this all happened, how old were you?
I think I was like 16. And that's what bothers me, Alex, because it's like you're the man of the house, you kind of have to step up. And I wish I would have known back then, because instead of going out and doing what I was doing, I would have rather worked and then helped her out. So I feel like, Alex, you and I talked about it before, but that's a big reason as to why I feel like now, while I'm aware of it, I'm giving so much and I'm helping so much because I have to make up for what happened back in the past. And
Someone's at front door.
sorry, my Google right there. But that's what I have to smart home. Hey, we made it. We got Google Smart Home now. But yeah, man, that's how it started. And that was the most impactful thing about my life. And that's how it all started and kind of shot me in this direction of, where I'm at today.
So how did, you also shared that you had your car repossessed at a listing appointment. Tell us about that story.
Oh, man.
Don't mind.
Trying to break me today, Myrna.
No, this is all being candid and open because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are going through some really difficult things right now. And it's important for people to see that we are going to go through some very difficult things in our lives. And 2020 is no exception, right?
It is, yeah.
It's all about that journey and the mindset. And so I'm not trying to break you, sweetie, but I definitely want people to know that you can succeed no matter what you encounter.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with everyone who's watching out there right now, definitely. Like I talked about on social media, a lot of the glitz, a lot of the glam is kind of what us as human beings publish, because I think either way, and Myrna and Alex, I don't know if you guys can agree with this, but it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? If you post too much nice, good stuff, it's like, dude, you're ignorant. You don't see what's really happening in the world. None of that stuff happens. But then if you start posting negative, it's like, bro, why are you always negative? Why are you doing that? So you kind of just have to do what's best for you in your future. But you bring that up, Myrna. Yeah, hey, listen, everyone on social media is paying attention right now. It is tough. Real estate is tough. And we do have financial obstacles. We have learning curves. We have a leadership growth. We have a lot of those things. And to answer your question, yeah, when I went full-time real estate in 2015, May of 2015, I invested every single penny that I had into real estate, to taking professional headshots, to developing a website, having business cards made, for sale signs, and I went all in. And I blew my entire savings account on it, purchased suits and ties, because you have to have that image, so I thought back then, you have to have that image to kind of develop yourself and break into the market. But within the first 3 months, it was hard. It was humbling. I had no phone calls, no leads, no conversations, no one who supported or believed in me. And, speaking out loud and truthfully, there weren't really too many friends or family either. And I don't blame them because, if you're brand new in this industry and you're trying to prove a name to yourself, how could anyone really believe in you when you're just starting off? And so I don't blame anyone for that. But 5 months into the business, all my cards were maxed out. My credit cards were maxed out. I have on camera myself calling my bank and to check my balance, and I recorded it because I wanted to save it as motivation. But I have a conversation on the bank where my account was overdrawn by $1,300. All my credit cards were maxed out and I had nothing. And I was 60 days behind on my car payment. And I was at a listing appointment one Friday morning. It was Friday morning, like at 10. And I remember parking it in the garage, behind the gate, the listing appointment, parked it. I was there. I was doing everything that I was taught to do. And a couple of minutes later, the mom runs down the stairs and she yells in Spanish. She's asking me like, oh, is that your blue car outside? And I'm in the middle of having a conversation with the homeowner, and he's telling me how much he dislikes this neighborhood because his neighbors are a pain in the ass. And he's like, dude, I can't stand my neighbors. They're always listening. They're always complaining and all this stuff. And she's like, is that your blue car? So the owner and I walk outside, and yeah, sure enough, the tow truck had it hooked up. I walked over there with my head down. I'm like, dude, can you please let go of my car? And he's like, I'm so sorry. I have to do it. He's like, I'm like, what if I don't have any money to give you, but I'm at an appointment. Can I please let it go? And he's telling me, I'm sorry, I can't. BMW told me where the car was and I have to take it back. And he felt the pain. He felt the embarrassment that I was in. And I remember in that moment, I told myself, okay, you have to snap out of this. You're in a meeting. You need to walk back with your chin up and your shoulders back and a smile on your face. And that was the hardest pill that I ever had to swallow in real estate. The most humbling and embarrassing thing in the world. So I turned around and I walked back over to the homeowner. Then I'm walking with a smile, straight back over to him. And he says, Gabriel. And he tells me in Spanish, he wraps his arm around my shoulder. And he's like, Gabriel, I'm so sorry. He's like, do you see, this is why I want to move. And I'm like, why? Like, why do you want to move? He's like, my neighbors called the tow truck on you. And I was like, I'm like, yeah, it's your neighbors, whatever, man, let's go. So it's the neighbors, but BMW towed it. We walked back inside and didn't sign the listing agreement. I didn't have any money to call an Uber. It wasn't really around back then. My sister was in school. My mom was at work and no one was there to pick up. So I had to hop in his two-seater truck and had him drop me back off at the office. The most embarrassing, humbling ride back. I remember swinging my little legs out of his truck, hopping out, and we just looked at each other. And we both kind of knew that was like the last time we'd ever talked to each other. And that was it. But Myrna, to go deep on what you were talking about, that day I had a decision. It was either to go home and just kind of live in my defeat, or I was already at the office, might as well make something of it. And I decided to stay there, and I decided to make my calls and my follow-up, and I still showed up with a smile, and I just did the work.
Hey Gabe, how did you, that must have been like just soul crushing. How did you not throw in the towel and just give up and say, you know what, I'm going to try something else?
You know, Alex, it's you said something a while ago, man. It was about like having belief. Last year when you were the president, I remember you were giving the entire chapter like this conversation, but you were talking about belief and how people have belief in us. And it took me a while to create that message in my head. But what it was back then was exactly what you told us. It was having belief, just having enough belief that it's going to happen, and faith in yourself that you can make it happen, and faith in the support system. And I was blessed back then that I did have a strong support system. You know, my mom was there, my sister was there, my dad had just come back into my life. And I had that support system at the office. People were just hyping me up like, yo, you can do it. And I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I was watching a lot of videos, and I stopped clubbing, and I stopped listening to like hip hop music, and I replaced hip hop with Christian rap, and I replaced everything else I was listening with audiobooks, and I replaced my sleeping in with reading books and working out. So I was building my belief within myself, and I was strengthening it. So when I was there in that moment, I remember listening to those audiobooks, and they would tell me there would be a time where I'd feel like giving up, there'd be a time where I'd break down, the books would say, but that breakdown is a hint that a breakthrough is about to happen. And I just stayed faithful, man. And I just did the work. And that was it, to be honest.
You're keeping it real, you know, and that's I'm a little emotional and choked up, you know, because I think a lot of us can relate with that. I can relate definitely myself. And I know exactly what that feels like. A lot of people have gone through these moments and are still going through it, and maybe even more so now.
I think it's a lot more, Myrna, than people talk about, you know, and I think this is why I really want to thank you for putting this together, because us as real estate agents, we're trying to figure it out. You know, no one tells us really how to manage our money or how to develop a corporation. And you know, once you get your real estate license, it's like, okay, you have your license, but now what? And no one really teaches us. So, you know, Myrna, I got to give you props, because I know what you went through recently, and then you're still putting this together. So I just want to say thank you. Yeah.
That's right, Myrna. I can't believe that you, during this whole period, just so everyone knows, if you weren't aware, Myrna tested positive for COVID. And during this whole time, these 2 to 3, 4 weeks, every time I spoke to her, she never once complained. She never once gave up. And when she told me how she was operating at the time, she was in her garage, right, Myrna?
Yes.
And you were showering with a water hose.
Yes.
You were doing that to protect your family and your friends.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Myrna, you still showed up on game day every time it was called. So I'm telling you, you are such a beautiful spirit. That is amazing. I'm blessed to be like with you and Alex on the Zoom call today. It's just, you know, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I feel like the more you put it out there, the more kind of people you're going to attract. I'm just glad that you're doing this for other people. That's huge, because this is going to be a big takeaway today.
Right back at you guys. You guys are amazing. And so I really appreciate you guys taking the time to hop on here and do this, because I know both of you are really busy. So, you know, I have another question for you, Gabe, because I think all of us dig deep when we're going through these difficult moments. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You're either going to choose to crumble and stay in that place of darkness, or you're going to choose to push through and succeed, right? And walk into the light and have complete faith that you're going to get this done. So I have to ask you this question, because it's all within us, and sometimes we let it get the best of us. What is one of your biggest fears?
If you would have asked me back when I was starting real estate, it was, there was nothing to lose. I had everything to gain, nothing to lose. If you ask me today what my biggest fear is, today my biggest fear is going back to that. It's, you know, I learned a couple of things. I have a couple of coaches in neurolinguistic programming, Kaya Redford and Veronica, beautiful couple. You guys need to go check them out. But they say, they taught me that people operate off two motives, either fear-based or, you know, they're trying to run away from pain, or people are trying to get closer to pleasure. And, you know, there's no wrong or right way. As long as we live with the mindset of abundance, it's okay. But for me, my biggest motivator is fear. I know what it was like before to not have a bad reputation, to not have friends who support you. I've been there before, and it sucks. And so today, my biggest fear is I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to taste it. I have too many friends, too many family members. I have too many clients who rely on me to show up every single day and to give 100%. And so that is what I'm trying to, that's what scares me the most, is going back to that lifestyle. So I have to wake up early, I have to go to bed late, I have to eat well, I have to work out, I have to read books, I have to educate myself, I have to do more today, because I know for a fact that as quickly as it all came, it'll go even faster. It'll go way even faster. So I just need to operate at a very high level. That's what I'm scared of the most today.
So you, if I'm hearing you right, you use that experience in your life not to define you and break you, right? You use it as a way to fuel your passion and drive to keep moving forward and succeed at a high level. I have to commend you for that. That's just amazing. But I'm hearing you say you surround yourself with great books and coaching and just amazing support team. Because if I'm hearing you right, we're not in this alone. It takes a team of amazing people to make it happen.
I 100% agree. You know, one of the biggest things I strongly dislike is when people say this expression right here. They say, I'm self-made. Like, no, man, like there's no such thing as self-made. There's no person on this earth who's self-made. If you really break it down and think about it, no one is self-made. If someone hurt you, they motivated you, okay, well, that's part of your story right there. But we've all had friends who've supported us, haters who've hated on us. We've all had people who've been there, who are clients who've given us business. We've all had those people where we needed to cry and relate a message to, or perhaps let's just say you've had nobody, right? But you've listened to the audiobooks, you've read the books. Well, that person who wrote that book, who gave that audiobook, they had to sacrifice time and put effort into that book so that you could learn. And we took away from that. So no, there's no such thing as a self-made person. All of us are accumulation of all of our experiences and the people who poured into us. And this is why it's all of our duty, responsibility, and obligation to pay it forward, to help other people progress through life and get through these things. And this is why, Mirna, when you contacted me for today, I was like, okay, we're gonna get real. We're gonna talk about some things that they're gonna get a little embarrassing, but you know what? This is what God called me to do, and this is what I'm going to deliver today. But yes, I agree with you.
Thank you so much, Gabe. So I just want to ask you one more question before we hop on to Alex, because Alex has a definitely amazing story as well to share, and definitely want to connect with them and give them the time.
Yeah.
So if you were given 3 things to make you happy, what would those be?
3 things that make me happy.
3 things.
3 things that make me happy. My happiness comes from fulfilling like my purpose and my passion. That's what makes me really happy. One of the items. Number 2, and probably the last one I can think of, is seeing all of my friends and family around me healthy and happy. I've already played this movie out 1,000,000 times. I'm glad you asked this question. I've already played this movie out 1,000,000 times. Okay, Gabe, what if you amass all the wealth, all the business, all the clients in the entire world, and you do really, really well? I've played it out. I'm like, oh, that'd be so great. But what if during that process, grandma dies, you don't spend any time with her, mom and dad pass away, all of your cousins who were around with you that you grew up with playing in the front yard grow up and get old and move on, all the best friends that you've ever met in your entire life, relationships die. and you become, you know, by yourself. And how would you feel if your father was in the hospital sick and here you are living your best life, but everyone around you is struggling, they're hurt, they're sick? Is that really success? Is that really happiness? And I played that movie out in advance. And I remember feeling how awesome it was, accumulating all of it. But at the very end, looking back at it and saying, no, that's emptiness, that's sadness. I don't want that. And I changed the story and I changed the narrative in my mind. And I decided to think about, well, what if I sacrificed my life, pouring into others, helping other people, fulfilling my purpose, and in the process of doing that, taking care of everyone around me so that they never have to feel that? Because I truly feel like God has blessed me with this perspective that is very rare to find. He's given me an ability to like look back, to find the story and the message and apply it in my life. And I feel like my talent and my skill is being healthy and young and charismatic and attracting all this business so that I can go out and pay it forward. So what really makes me happy is seeing my friends, my family, all of them around me, everyone healthy and happy. Because as long as everyone's healthy, then we're good. And as long as they're happy, then I can go move on and do what I do best, really happy. So those are the two things that make me the happiest, is fulfilling my purpose and taking care of everyone around me.
You're awesome. Thank you. All right, now.
Said it better, Gabe. That's inspiring and changing so many people's lives already.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate you, brother. Let's you doing it, man.
Now we're going to go ahead and bring Alex on board, and Gabe, help me out here with some questions, because this man went on a journey across the US in 28 days when everything was shutting down. So Alex, we need to know, what was going on in your mind?
That's the question I've been asking myself. Besides being nuts and losing a few marbles and doing something that's utterly crazy, I thought it was a good idea. There'd be no traffic. Gas was dirt cheap. I said, you know, why not just hop on the road? But no, seriously, Myrna, it was a lot more profound than that. And it's precisely what you've been talking about, is that everyone is going through this soul-crushing moment in history that we've never been through before, whether it be losing a job or someone contracting COVID and being in the hospital, like our dear friends, Francisco and Tony. They're still recovering from that. And they were this close to meeting our maker. So at the time, we were 3 to 4 weeks into the lockdown, and seeing all this around me, I wanted to capture that moment in history that we're going to be talking about for the rest of our lives and go see it for myself. But I wanted to be a beacon of light and hope for others that maybe were watching me or seeing my journey. I know not everyone agreed with what I was doing, because it was a little out of control and was going against the grain a bit. But I did it with a really good intention and as careful as I could be, Myrna. I was looking for inspiration and meaning. It was looking to reignite myself. I did. I never felt so energized, just re-energized and wanting to live my life, Myrna, and wanting others to do good as well. So as I traveled across the country, I learned so much about myself and others as well. And it's...
I'm wondering, man, like, because a lot of us out here, especially, I'll speak for myself. Like, I've always, had that urge to want to go out there and explore and develop and do those kind of things. But what was it, man, that like just, I mean, you went from like, hey, I'm in the business world, I have a team, I got a small team, clients and all that stuff, to, I mean, how long did it take you to make that decision, and what finally pulled you out of the chair, your butt into a car, which I don't even think most people on here know that you don't even have a car, you choose that. So like, dude, how did you make that move?
I don't have a car, Gabe. I think it's been 4 years since I've owned a car. So I had to rent an SUV to be able to complete this trip. But it actually started in early 2020, Gabe. I took a self-improvement course that literally ripped me open, and it left me raw, Gabe. And it had me look deep inside within myself and see who I truly am and what I'm capable of. And I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't play it small anymore, and that I would be an authentic, free, and courageous man. So I knew instantly when these thoughts were going through my mind, I was actually driving back from a camping trip. And as I was driving, it just hit me like a sack of potatoes, Myrna and Gabe, and I had an epiphany. I wanted to see the US in this moment. And it took me a day or two maybe and I planned and prepped as much as I could. I packed my bags and I jumped on the road. But I couldn't have done it without the support and the encouragement of my teammates, my friends, my family. I remember I called my brothers and sisters and my mom, and they know me already, so they know I'm a little cuckoo and I'm adventurous. And I've done this in the past. I actually went hitchhiking a couple different times across Mexico on my way to Argentina when I was 16 years old. So that it stemmed from all of that, Gabe. And this is something that I've always wanted to do. And it was just a challenge at the time for me. So I did the best that I could. As you guys know, I did it on my own. I didn't bring anybody else with me. I wasn't staying in hotels.
You pitched a tent, right?
I said that again?
You pitched
I was pitching a little green tent that I could barely fit in. And that was one of the toughest things, is just finding a safe place to sleep where I thought I might be robbed, guys. I'm in the middle of nowhere, a mile into the road. And in that moment, I thought there was going to be more people taking advantage of the situation and robbing anyone that they could. So I did feel anxiety. It was a bit of dangerous, but I also have some experience in protecting myself. So I felt okay.
I want to ask you this because you did share with me a little bit about your story, and there's one particular moment that I would like for you to share with us because it speaks about pretty much feeling fear and pushing through it. You shared with me a moment where you were scared. There was coyotes. Tell us about that moment.
I was frightened out of my mind, Myrna. I was frozen stiff. And coyotes, I don't think they're that dangerous, but in my mind, I was just scared. Once again, I was about 2 to 3 days into the journey. I stopped in Arizona on the border with Nevada, and I pitched a tent in the forest about a mile off the road or the highway, and I went to sleep. It was just another typical day. I was watching the stars, just being out in the wild. You hear different noises, you're breathing fresh air, and I think we all need a bit of that, especially during these times, just to get back out there in nature. And I felt alive. I felt great. I fell asleep, and the next thing I know, I feel something brush up against the tent. And the tent can barely fit me. So I feel something brush up against the tent. And I froze stiff. And then I felt it again, and I heard them. I don't know how many they were, but I immediately knew what it was. And I had an axe right next to me and a 6-inch blade. I grabbed them both, couldn't breathe. I don't know if you've ever been terrified where you can't breathe and you start hyperventilating. But I wanted to be as quiet as I could because I wasn't sure whether they could see me or I knew they smelled me. But I didn't know if they knew I was in there or if they were just playing with me. Eventually, a thought crossed my mind of going Facebook Live. That way, at least you could see what happened to me.
The end of Alex.
The last journey, right? The last final
journey.
chapter.
That's right. And I couldn't even do that because I didn't have a signal. So I talked to myself through it. What am I going to do? And I pumped myself up. Okay, if this happens, Alex, then you're going to start swinging and you're going to go out with a bang, run to the car if you can, climb a tree, whatever it was. But luckily, I ended up falling asleep. And when I woke up, everything was okay. But I just seen a whole bunch of tracks everywhere. And it just reminded me of our mortality. And that's one commodity that we can never get back. And that's our time here. So whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's in real estate, whether it's wanting to start a business, whether you want to be an artist, whatever it is, just know that you can. Just set your mindset and train your mindset to overcome any obstacle. And like you said, Gabe, when your back is up against the wall and you have nowhere else to go, you're either going to punch back, push back, or you're going to turn around and just slam that wall down and break through it and become who you want to become and create the life that you want for yourself and your family. And that's what I felt in those moments. I also, it's 28 days and I didn't expect to be out there 28 days. I thought I was going to be, gone a week and maybe come back. And throughout that whole time, I was still working. I was still doing my best to be in touch with clients. As a matter of fact, I was still attending board meetings while I was driving.
So were you wearing a suit from the waist up and your canvas, your shorts on the bottom, tennis shoes? You're so, I'm so impressed by your story. And I want to dig into this particular question. Like that moment that you were in the tent and you were faced with those coyotes, you felt an immense amount of fear because you talked about how it practically takes your breath away.
It did.
And I'm sure that there's many other moments in your life, in personal and business, that you encounter fear, the unknown. How do you mentally prepare yourself and build that strength to push through it and not let that fear conquer you?
I think that's a challenge for every day. But the biggest thing we can do is to train our mind, train the brain, because that's one of the only things that we can truly control. And know that life isn't easy. Life is going to throw roadblocks at us. Life is going to throw punches at us. Right now, it might be every day and every moment, like Gabe's story and your story. We're dealing with this, and everyone collectively in the US and the world, we're going through this period where it's soul crushing and it's gut wrenching, where you might lose your job. And we see it with our clients. We have clients that are about to buy their first home, and all of a sudden they're furloughed. They're no longer working, and they have to give up on one of their dreams. So it's having that mindset of knowing that bad things are going to happen and taking responsibility for everything that does, and not having that victim mindset and turning it into something positive and of abundance, and turning it into fuel that's going to motivate and push you forward to accomplish whatever it is that you want, whether it be as simple as traveling, having the freedom to do so, making sure that your friends and family, that they're healthy and okay. We have to have that mindset right now that things can go wrong, but we also can make a difference, and that we can also pull through. And if I pick myself up and I'm in a good place and I'm doing well, then what I want to do is help pick up wherever I can. If I see them struggling, whether it be mentally, I have a lot of friends that are struggling with PTSD right now. And I've lost a lot more than I can count over the years that took their own life, that made it through combat in Iraq, but came back here and lost the battle with those demons. And I don't want to see anybody ever do that again. So whenever I see someone, you just pick them up, whether it's like, hey, let's having a simple conversation, or saying, I understand. Those little things matter. And telling our nephews and our nieces and our brothers and sisters and our friends that yes, you can, that you're doing amazing things. So
I think this is why it's so important that we're having this collective conversation, candid openness, because it lets people know you're not alone. We all are experiencing a level of pain and discomfort. It's a challenging time. And the beautiful thing that I'm seeing from both of you, Gabe and Alex, is that you have a sense of giving back to your community. And you're digging deep and just helping the next person, because you definitely see there's a need for it more than ever, that we pull together and let people know you're not alone. We're here for you. Both of you have an amazing heart, and I am just so blessed to be in this conversation with you. So I have to ask, what is the one thing that you hope this conversation that we're having today openly with everybody in Canada, that you want people to know that are hearing you today?
It's a really good question.
First the words that come to mind are just meaning and purpose, and giving them a little bit of inspiration, showing them the light, and that there's hope, and that this isn't going to last forever, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that even though it's chaotic and we're divided right now as a nation in the entire world, that we can still somehow come together or keep it together, keep it from going completely into chaos.
Yeah, and I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I want everyone to have today is, in regards to business and work, you're definitely going to have to take those punches like Alex was talking about. It's going to happen every day, and you just have to show up. You have to work hard every single day. You have to improve your skills every single day. You have to be honest, and you have to be good to people. And that's what the secret is to being successful in business. Work hard, get better, be good to people, and work, just continue showing up every day, day in and day out. But more importantly, on a bigger scale, a bigger message, and Alex, you kind of just inspired me to say this right now. We have a lot of stuff going on in the world. You have different views on political parties. You have different views on the pigment of your skin. But I want to tell every single one of you out there right now, there's only one race in this world, and that's the human race. And it doesn't matter what pigment of your color, your skin that you have. It doesn't matter the social status that you have. It doesn't matter the money that you have. None of that matters. We're all on this earth together. Be good to one another. Don't look towards the next president. Don't look towards anyone else to make a change. If you want to make a change in the world, you have to be the change within you that you want to see. And that's the only way that you're going to make the change. Because when people see you being good to other people, when they see you having patience with other people, when they see you having faith and pulling other people up like Alex was talking about, that's going to inspire them to do the same thing. So hopefully the message that Alex and I had today, Mirna, your story especially, and all of us collectively, you guys see how good can be. And you can turn around and forgive other people, tell them you're sorry, tell you love them, remain humble, work hard, and hopefully impact them and influence them to be good people too, because that is what's going to change the world.
That's right on. Myrna, I have a quote that resonated with me while I was on the road. You mind if I read it out to you guys?
Oh, absolutely, please do.
So, on this road called life, you have to take the good with the bad, smile with the sad, love what you got, and remember what you had. Always forgive, but never forget. Learn from your mistakes. People change. Things go wrong, but just remember, the ride goes on and life goes on.
Yeah, that's deep. Wow, I'm speechless. All right, guys. We have some questions from the audience, and I want to say that we're going to have one of our board members come on and ask these questions. Let's see here. Actually, okay. All right, there we go. There's Gloria, our president of NAHREP Fresno.
We only have time for one question, and this goes for both of you. Which book had the biggest impact in your life? So let's start with Alex first.
Into the Wild. Into the Wild, I read it when I was 16 years old. If you haven't seen the movie or read the book, it inspired me to, at the time I was working with my brother, to leave my job, and this is the journey that I mentioned, to hitchhike all the way to Argentina, which I never made it. But that book was what had a domino effect, which caused me to join the military. And then the rest is history. Changed my way of thought, changed the way that I look at the world. It pulled up blinders that I had growing up, and it motivated me to make a difference. So Into the Wild by John Krakauer, which is one of my favorite authors. And if you get to read another book by him, it's called Where Men Win Glory, about a ranger that ended up dying in Afghanistan. But anywho, it's one of my favorite books.
And Gabe?
The book that probably had the biggest impact in my business with real estate, and just as a businessman, is the 10X Rule by Uncle G, Grant Cardone. My man, Uncle G. If you guys don't follow him, he's crazy mindset in business. But it was the 10X Rule. And this, like I was telling you guys before, I was dead broke. Everything was maxed out, but it had nothing to do with money. It was all strictly based on work ethic, effort, putting in 100% energy, showing up, and not making excuses. He has a very explicit chapter in there that I won't repeat the name of it, but that was the one that resonated the most. And it gave me the backbone that I needed to get up every single and push through everything. And he said something, don't have a wishbone where there ought to be a backbone.
Wow, those are great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was inspirational. There's gold nuggets people can take home in this time of pandemic. And we want to just thank our sponsors and our membership and the attendees that attended today. A big kudos to Myrna and a shout out to Heather and Percy for putting this together. I mean, that was awesome, you know, and our NAHREP Fresno board, as we said, are all behind you guys doing this. This is like so inspirational. So tomorrow we're going to have a raffle and it will be one ticket of we're going to pull out a name that attended this event. So it'll be for Latitude and we're going to end up presenting that tomorrow. And our future events, we'll be looking for sponsors and we're just waiting for, you know, some of these sponsors to step up to the plate and let's get Fresno NAHREP moving. And thank you, La Jolla chapter. I just give you guys kudos. Thank you, everyone, and just have a blessed day.
Thanks for having us, Gloria.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Mirna, Gloria, Heather, thank you guys so much.
I tell you, gold nuggets. It was just so inspirational.
And I know there was more questions. I know that Gabe and Alex are open books and they will definitely answer those questions later today, tomorrow. We'll definitely get all your questions answered. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Alex
much.
and Gabe, you guys have an amazing heart. Thank you for being open and not
Thanks,
afraid
guys.
to be transparent today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great.
Keep your chin up, everyone.